Welcome to the round one preview as the Carlton Football Club take on the Richmond Football Club Thursday night at the MCG. Order is restored. We're back at the G on a Thursday night in round one against the Tigs after a really solid start to the season. I'm really mindful of, it's so exciting what happened in opening round. And I'm really mindful of not getting too sucked into it, even though obviously you want to acknowledge it. It's a historic win and all the storylines and all of that. But, the reality is you got to move on. And I'm really fascinated. I'd be very curious to know how the club, the players, the staff, how they compartmentalize that, because you want to draw on that good emotion and confidence that you gain. But you don't want to get too sucked into it and get a false sense of security. This league is so tight that any team can beat any team if one of the teams is, 5-10% off with their overconfidence. So anyway, that's that. More than anything, it's just super exciting to be back at the MCG. It's not to say that footy's really back, but it's not the same. It's not the same when it's not at the MCG. Massive kudos to the Queensland supporter group who put on a show last week for us. And now I think we're going to actually reap the benefits of what opening round is about. Because for those of us who didn't go to the Gabba, those of us who watched opening round at home, watched that, brilliant win, there's a sense of, oh my God, like I want to be a part of it. Like get me to the footy. And I believe we're going to see an increase in the number of attendees on Thursday night. And also there's going to be a little bit of added spice to the mix because we have a bit of FOMO and, for the first time we get to really get back into our game day routines, going to the stadium, our pre-game routine, whether you get there an hour earlier, 2 hours earlier, whatever the case may be. And it really just feels normal again. Every team's going to be playing this weekend. And so that is just the most exciting aspect of Thursday night. And, we're so early in the season. So the end of the season is so far away. And then before we know it, it's going to be, really close to us. So, you've got to take each week and enjoy it for what it is. For us, riding high, found some momentum. Momentum's so hard to find in anything, sport and in life. And it feels like we found momentum that haven't seen us find this early in the season. There's still a lot to iron out. I think you don't fall into a 46-point hole for no reason. Your opposition obviously dictates a lot of that. But I am curious to see how we line up this week, how our approach is this week. I spent the weekend watching the footy, as most of us did. I watched the Tigers, and to be honest, I think a few things. Did Damien Hardwick show us how to go up against Richmond, what to do, what to take away from them? Really noticed the pressure that was applied by the Suns last week that I think we can take in and emulate. I think what they did to curtail the impact of Rioli, with his run and carry off half back, I think that is an aspect that we'll definitely be looking at. And I wasn't sure, if I'm honest with you, whether the Suns were just super good, whether the Tigers were not good, because then they started coming back, and I wasn't sure if that was just because the sting of the game had been taken out. But the reality is I don't expect the Tigers to get themselves in a 10-goal hole again. I think they'll be better prepared. They're going to get some important players back into the fold. At the time of filming this, it looks like they'll get Nankervis back, who is an important piece for them, which then opens up the question about, all right, is that going to be a Nank and Naismith combo, which then opens up the question, is that going to mean we look at a TDK and Pito inclusion? We'll see how that one plays out. Dusty seems like he will be ready for this week, and then Tom Lynch potentially could be back. And so those are three of their best players, let's be honest. The Richmond era and the Richmond experience for us, I've gone through both sides. There was a period of time where we couldn't lose to them if we tried, and we would, it used to be just a bank the 4 points, easy done, away we go. Then we went through a period of where we could not we could not beat them for many years. It took a long time. 2022 was obviously the first time we beat them in a while. And then you cast your mind back to round one, 2023 with the draw, just a fascinating scene. And just left us all with a little sour taste in the mouth. And so there has been a bit of conversation around, do our boys get a little too confident based off what happened last week? I don't think so. And the reason why I don't think so is just not yet, because a lot of these guys, there's nothing to be too confident about just yet. They've also experienced those times where we couldn't beat Richmond in round one, seemingly. We just, for whatever reason, couldn't get it done. They had ultra confidence, and I would love to see us start to become the aggressor. I mean, I think a lot of teams get up to play Carlton. They love beating Carlton. We're obviously going to draw a massive crowd. Atmosphere is going to be electric, and teams like to play against us. It used to be a situation where they'd be confident about Carlton's mental fragility. So I would like for us to become the aggressor. You ain't gonna find us because we're looking for you type mentality. That's what I'd like to see. Respectfully, of course, you got to have a level of humility, but also I would like to see us be a bit more assertive with the way we go about it. I think what we know about this team is no matter what situation they are in, they can get themselves out of it. And the challenge is to just not get into the situations where they have to find a way to get out. So that's something they're clearly going to be working on over the course of this season and over the course of the next period of time, couple of years. And once we, raise the floor of how we play the game, I think that's when we're going to see a truly dominant Carlton. So very exciting. Also, very important, we have a new initiative at the club now. I did this yesterday. If you have a reserve seat, it literally takes 90 seconds to give up your reserve seat to somebody who can potentially go. So if you're not going to be going to the game, you got to give up your seat. It has to be part of the routine now if you can't get there and you have a reserve seat. So I just want to see at least 90,000 there. I really want to see 90,000 there. And I think it'll just really awaken Melbourne. We talk about it a lot in preseason about the footy being the soul of Melbourne. And I feel very strongly about that. And, once that ball bounces and once we hear that first roar of the crowd after a goal or holding the ball, it's the ultimate. It really is. So the ride continues and it's super exciting. When it comes to us, we know that Doc won't play. Naturally, my mind goes to Jack Carroll stepping up from the sub into the starting team. Don't know if we're going to be doing that. I am curious around the ruck situation because we know Nank will play, most likely. And so don't know what that's going to do for Naismith. But if they're going to go in with two rucks and Tom Lynch, do we do that? Do we need to do that? We'll see. I think Nank's a really good ruckman, and I think this might be one of those matchups where you do bring in Pitto so that he and Tom can work off each other. Pitto can just grind him out, and then Tom can jump over the top. But we'll see how that plays out. I remember last year we debuted Ollie Hollands at the MCG against the Tigers. I wonder if we do something like that this year, whether it's a Binns or an Ashton Moyer. So, someone's going to come in. Maybe it's a Chincotta. They've got some dangerous guys in their forward line or sort of half forward line. I think of Baker, smart footballer. I think of Shea Bolton. I think of these types. I do think they have a few players who are still very early in their career, and all of a sudden that started to turn the page where they've got some inexperienced guys. So if we can lift the intensity and force some errors for some of these younger guys or less experienced guys and then pounce off those mistakes and punish them the other way, hopefully it'll be a good night for us. Regardless, the footy's back and we're at the MCG, the greatest stadium on earth. It's the Coliseum, and there is nothing when it comes to energy that matches a Carlton home game, especially against one of these big rivals in Victoria. So I'm excited. What about you? How do you feel about Thursday night? Share with us in the comments below your sentiments, and let's get it. MCG Thursday night. Go Blues.